sir. Yes, I
You give me the signal.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
I'll start. Hope Sharmila is there.
Yes, yes, she has joined.
She is testing her audio on time.
Yes.
Sharmila, test your audio. We are going live.
Silver Jubilee celebrations. Okay, okay.
Sharmila, can you hear? Sharmila, unmute yourself.
Yes, yes, yes.
Two devices. Dr. Sharmila.
You are connected with two devices.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I have just left one device. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Okay, Pramod, start.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. On this auspicious occasion of 75th Sunday Sahityak Satsang, I welcome you all here, and I would request Professor G.A. Ghanshyam sir, founder and general secretary of iSPELL, to start the event, please, sir.
Thank you very much, Pramod. Good evening, namaste, adab, and khushamdeed to all those who have joined on this virtual platform of iSPELL. Friends, indeed, it's a happy occasion for all of us that today we are celebrating the Platinum Jubilee of our flagship program, which is known as the Sunday Sahityak Satsang. We started our journey of Indian Society for the Promotion of English Language and Literature, which is commonly known as iSPELL, on 5th of September 2020 during the Corona times. During the adversity, we have seen the opportunities. During adversity, we have seen relationships. During adversity, we have seen people coming together, keeping together, and working towards the success. And this reminds me all the time, Robert Frost, who said in one of his poems, "The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep, miles to go before I sleep, miles to go before I sleep." We are just moving ahead, and we are gathering the life. And there is a poem which goes like this: "It's not just the passing of years, but the ripening wisdom of living. It's not just a toll taken, but a well of receiving and giving. It's not just the people come and gone, but the heart's many faces and forms. Not just the winds of change and chance, but a withering of staffs and storms. It's not just the luck of survival, but the brave conquering of strife. It's not, after all, just the passing of years, but a gathering of love and life." What we have gathered during these 75 Sunday Sahityak Satsang is nothing but love and life. And that's what remains with us. All the materialistic things go away, but one thing which remains is love forever. So today on this Platinum Jubilee, I take this opportunity to introduce to you the person who is going to lead us towards the end of this Platinum Jubilee Sunday Sahityak Satsang is none other than Dr. Sharmila Paul. She hails from West Bengal, and she is the Assistant Professor of English at Rani Birla Girls College, affiliated to the University of Calcutta. She has done her PhD on translation, and her areas of studies are post-colonial studies, translation, gender studies, feministic studies, and whatnot. And she is the one who has contributed her papers in the national and international journals and presented her papers too. And she is the one who is taking care of one of the founding members of iSPELL West Bengal Forum. With these few words, I welcome Dr. Sharmila Paul to be the master of ceremonies. The stage is yours, Dr. Sharmila.
Thank you so much, sir, for those words of kind words of introduction. So, Honorable Chairperson for today's program, Dr. Nilanjana Pathak, Honorable Speaker, Dr. Mahadev, Honorable President of iSPELL India, Professor Anupama Vora, Honorable Founder and General Secretary of iSPELL, Professor G.A. Ghanshyam, the respected EC members of iSPELL India, dignitaries from various forums of iSPELL, respected academicians, scholars, and students, I feel extremely honored and privileged to welcome you all to this 75th Sunday Sahityak Satsang. today is a remarkable day, as Sir has rightly pointed out, for all the iSPELlians, since we are celebrating the Platinum Jubilee of iSPELL's flagship program, Sunday Sahityik Satsang. This program has been organized continuously from the time of the inception of iSPELL on 15 September 2020, drawing the appreciation and laudability of academicians from various corners of India and the world since then. To quote Aristotle, the great thinker and philosopher, excellence is never an accident. It is the result of high intention, sincere effort, intelligent direction, skill execution, and the vision to see the obstacles and opportunities. It is with the high intention of transforming the obstacles created by the pandemic into the opportunities that iSPELL was imagined and executed and is still pursuing excellence. The Indian Society for the Promotion of English Language and Literature, popularly known as iSPELL, with its motto, Facilitate to Elevate, thus has been organizing academic talks on various aspects of English language and literature, and discussions on creative writing through the weekly endeavor of Sunday Sahityik Satsang. Today, we are honored with the gracious presence of Dr. Mahadev, who has kindly consented to give his deliberation on Valmiki's Ramayana a few questions. Now, we all know that unlike the Western epics, the great Indian epics like the Mahabharata and the Ramayana have multiple versions simultaneously coexisting in the Indian subcontinent. These versions, however, have existed on their own merits, though researches have been conducted and they are still being pursued to meet out the inquisitiveness around them. There's a lot more to be explored about these epics. Today, our esteemed speaker will address some key issues and questions regarding the Valmiki Ramayana. So before we move on to the deliberation of our respected speaker, let me take the honor of introducing him briefly to you. Dr. Mahadev is the Professor of English and Chairman Board of Studies and Dean Faculty of Arts, University of Mysore. He is also a member of Academic Committee, Indian Institute of Advanced Studies, Shimla. He is also a retired Professor of English, Department of Studies and Research in English, University of Mysore. He was awarded his PhD degree from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, on myth and rituals in the plays of Volsoinka. Through his illustrious career, he has graced many academic and administrative positions like Dean, Syndicate Member, Chairman of Board of Studies, Special Officer, and Deputy Registrar in several colleges and universities, respectively. He has delivered lectures at several national and international seminars, as well as has published extensively in various scholarly journals and books, including translations from Australian English literature into Kannada, among others. It's really difficult to comprehend all the academic and administrative achievements of a stalwart like him within such a short span of time. So please take my apologies for that. So with that very brief introduction, I would like to request Sir to begin with his deliberation. Over to you, Sir.
Good evening, all of you. Good evening. Good evening, Professor Ghanshyam Das. Good evening, Dr. Paul. Good evening, the other speakers. It's very happy to be with you all this evening. I retired 2 years back, and I am no more the syndicate member or the dean or the professor at the University of Mysore. It's all in the past. I was not in the present anymore. That is about myself in brief. Ramayana is not my area. I haven't taught Ramayana at the post-graduation level. Professor Arshia Sattar has translated Ramayana into English, working with Professor A.K. Ramanujan. And she has published a book called Lost Loves by Arshia Sattar. She is a scholar in Sanskrit, and the Department of English, University of Mysore, had invited her for a series of lectures on Ramayana. And it was while listening to her lectures, I developed some of these questions. These questions cropped up in my mind while we were responding to Dr. Arshia Sattar's book, Lost Love, and to a series of lectures that she gave at the Department of English. This was in 2018, 2017 or 16, around that time this happened. Now, Ramayana is one of the greatest epics that this world has seen. And it is one of the 4 epics that I have taught. The 2 epics from the Greek world, Iliad and Odyssey. And after that, we have the 2 Indian epics. And epics have also been written in modern times. Dante's Divine Comedy should also be mentioned here as one of the epics. Ramayana is very important, an epic for us, a very important epic for us for the reasons of Indian civilization, the development of Indian art and culture, and so many other factors that are part of the Indian culture and civilization. It expounds India as a country that was a civilization owing to very well established institutions in various branches of human knowledge. The development of ethics, morals, philosophy, art, statecraft, politics, and values of human dignity. The epic Ramayana goes on to tell the world about the existence of these factors as part of the great Indian civilization. And Ramayana is at the one end of the spectrum of morality compared to Mahabharata. They seem to be at the extreme points. They seem to be at the opposite points, in the sense that in Ramayana we see characters accepting certain things wholeheartedly, whereas in Mahabharata, you do not have people accepting things. Duryodhana refuses to listen to his father. Duryodhana refuses to listen to Krishna. Whereas here in Ramayana, we seem to see people accepting each other's advices, words, whether said in good spirit or in bad spirit, whether they are to establish harmony or to spread vengeance and ill blood. There seem to be some sort of an acceptance. And it is this quality in Ramayana which has made it a very important epic in the whole of human civilization. And that's why today also Ramayana is read for various reasons. And in modern times, it is seen as an epic dealing with the clash of civilizations, dealing with gender issues, dealing with race and other aspects, dealing with statecraft and administration. It is this aspect in Ramayana which makes India a great civilization. Aurobindo has this to say that India has made its contribution to world civilization in the form of highly developed and established institutions in the sphere of art and culture. And Ramayana is a treasure house of these institutions. They are very well developed, very well evolved. It has a great storehouse of philosophies. India is, unlike Europe, does not have philosophers here and there shining like stars. Whereas India has a long line of philosophers which is continuous, and it is a strong line, a national phenomena that has flourished over the centuries, right from Buddhism to Vedas and Upanishads to Jainism, Shaivism, and so on. It continues to be there. And philosophy is one of the very important branches of human knowledge that has strong roots in India. And it is these philosophical foundations that have been laid long time back that has given rise to a permanent place for literature in human life. Professor Iriana was a teacher of philosophy at the University of Mysore. In his book, Art Experience, talks about two different phases in the history of Indian philosophy. In the first phase of Indian philosophy, the human body was considered as an instrument of achieving better things in the life after death. In other words, the life after death was considered as more important, and this body was considered as an instrument, and for a better life after death, after life, certain austerities had to be maintained. It is for a better life after death. And in the second phase of Indian philosophy, this body and this life came to be treated as very important. Whatever man has to achieve, whatever man has to realize, has to be here and in this very life. As a result, emotions of man had to be refined to realize these finer aspects of life. And to refine the human emotions, literature was presumed, literature was considered as an instrument that would bring about refinement in human emotions. Why is the refinement in human emotions required? Because it is to experience the finer aspects of life in this very life. Because in the second phase of Indian philosophy, this life and the present life came to be considered as very important than what would man seek after in his afterlife. Afterlife did not simply exist, and therefore the present life was considered as very important. And for man to realize the finer aspects of life, he had to refine his emotions, and literature was seen as an instrument of bringing about refinement in human emotions. And in this sense, philosophy, Indian philosophy, has found a definite place for literature. The place is, and its function is, to bring about emotional culture in man. Emotional culture. Emotional culture, sensitizing man to the highest ideals that would enable him to achieve a peaceful, prosperous, and harmonious life in this world. And therefore, in the second school of Indian philosophy, second phase of Indian philosophy, Ananda came to be considered as the highest goal in life. Ananda. Ananda means the greatest pleasure. Ananda means bliss. Ananda means the greatest pleasure. The second phase of Indian philosophy considered, number one, this life as very important. Considered, number two, whatever is there in life has to be experienced only in this life. Number three, Ananda is the greatest thing to be experienced by man. And to achieve this Ananda and to realize the Ananda, the human emotions have to be refined. And these human emotions can be refined through the study of literature. So literature was found a definite place in the Indian civilization. Its role is to bring about the refinement, bring about the emotional culture. So the argument is, if the human mind is sensitized to the highest goals, to the highest kind of pleasure, it would make him strive for a permanent realization of the highest kind of pleasure. To put it again, to say it again, man has to be exposed to the highest kind of experience, highest kind of ananda, highest kind of pleasure. And when man experiences this highest kind of pleasure, when he comes out of literature, having tasted the highest kind of ananda, highest kind of pleasure, he would strive to achieve it on a permanent basis. And thereby he would, refine himself. He would, refine himself and make himself a complete man to achieve the beauty in the universe. And Indian literature and in the Indian literary world, we have a famous philosophy called Raso Vaisaha. There is beauty in this world. And it is this beauty, and this beauty can only be observed, experienced by people who have a dispassionate, pure self, which is not possible for the dispassionate, pure self is not possible for every ordinary human being. And therefore, literature is an agency. Literature is an agent which is meant for the ordinary people who are lost in the world of passions, and to make them and to take them to a world of dispassionate purities. Literature was seen as an agent, seen as an instrument. Therefore, literature had to follow certain norms, certain rules in its making. Literature has to follow. And in this sense, literature has to employ idealized situation. Idealized situation. Why idealized situations? Why ideals? That is because this is going to bring about the refinement of the human self, and these ideals are going to expose man to the highest ideals possible that would enable him to enjoy a peaceful, harmonious, and prosperous life. So so epics have a different role in life. The role of epics is to teach nyaya, teach righteousness. It should not, however, the great saints and sages who have contributed their might to the study of literature have said it that literature should not directly teach ethics or morals, but literature should have in its view the morals and ethics. They are there, they should be there in the background. It should not become the central idea, the very, like teaching the kids the morals and ethics directly. An epic should have in its view the morals and ethics, but it should not be the direct and the primary work primary job of the epics. And therefore, in the Indian epics have been written keeping in view of the morals and ethics in view. Otherwise, literature, there won't be a difference between great literature and ordinary literature. Pornography is also literature. A railway guide is also literature. Ordinary stories are also literature. Here, in this context, Kuvempu, our national poet in Karnataka, who has written Ramayana Darshanam in Kannada language, has said this in response to what I.A. Richards has said. I.A. Richards has opined that in case a work of art has succeeded in entertaining the reader, its job is over. Kuvempu, our national poet, disagrees with this argument, and he has said that the job of literature does not get over if it has entertained the readers. The entertainment should have in its view the highest ideals and morals. And the reader should, without asking any questions, accept what has been rendered in literature. You should not ask questions. For example, was Hanuman able to cross a distance of 1,000 yojanas? Is an animal, capable of crossing 1,000 yojanas without the support of an aeroplane or an helicopter, or without the support of some other instrument? Such questions should not be asked. That is how Kuvempu argues. It is not just the entertainment, but the entire thing has to be accepted without asking questions. Therefore, Indian epics have been foregrounded in the highest ideals, foregrounded in the literary philosophy, foregrounded in the philosophy of life, literary philosophy, and foregrounded in the culture and civilization, of India. Now, that brings us to the question, what has gone into the making of an epic by Valmiki? Valmiki, when we start reading Ramayana, we do not get back to Valmiki so many times. When the content is politicized, content is treated from various socio-political academic arguments in these days, Valmiki's name comes into picture. Otherwise, when we are reading Ramayana as a story, we are lost in the world of Ramayana. We will not think about Valmiki. It's not like we discussing Anita Desai, Salman Rushdie, with reference to their views and with reference to the presentation of the socio-political problems and so on. We do not discuss these things with reference to Valmiki. That is because the story is so engrossing, the story is so deep, the story is so complex that we get lost in the world of emotions that Ramayana arouses in us, and therefore we forget the author completely. And while making an ordinary story into a work of art, the poet exercises a lot of strategies. According to the Indian theory of art, an epic has to employ Ashtadasha Varnana, 18 kinds of descriptions. It has to describe the mountain, it has to describe the ocean, it has to describe a river, it has to describe the night, it has to describe a meteor, it has to describe a volcano, it has to describe a flood, it has to describe a war, it has to describe valor, it has to describe so many other factors, 18 different kinds of. And Indian theory of art has also offered the theory of rasa. The Indian theory of art has said that there are 9 very important rasas, and an epic has to deal with all these 9 important kinds of rasas. Now, Valmiki has done that in this story. The story of Ramayana is the story of Rama himself. But that is the story that holds the entire Ramayana together. But there are so many other sub-stories that have been integrated into the story of Ramayana. While the stories that have been integrated into the Ramayana Katha, the story that deals with Rama the prince, Rama the son of Dasratha, Rama the husband of Sita, Rama the brother of Lakshmana, Rama the incarnation of Vishnu, who is born to eliminate a demon king Ravana, Rama and the Rajya and the statecraft, Rama and the human. There are so many things that Rama's character abounds in it. And it is the Rama's story. Ramayana is Rama's story, but there are so many other stories that have been integrated into this story. And these stories merely figure as stories. We do not find many of the artistic excellences that Valmiki employs in relation to Rama's story, but they are presented as simple narratives. For example, we have Ahalya's story. For example, we have, the stories of so many other, Shabari's story, for example. And Shiva, the story of Shiva, the story of Bhagirath, the story of Anshuman. There's so many other stories that deal with the dynasties, that deal with the predicatories, that deal with the origin of mountains, history of mountains, history of dynasties, and so many other things. They all run, in a simple manner, whereas the central story is concerned, Valmiki is employing various literary strategies. Like, for example, in addition to the similes and metaphors, there are other ornamental aspects. While we think of poetry and while we think of reading poetry, there are various other kinds of strategies. But very importantly, there are 2 strategies that I would like to focus your attention to, draw your attention to. Number 1, media res, which means in the midst of things. And another one is peripeteia. Peripeteia is reversal, which Aristotle discusses in his book, Poetics. We have seen that with reference to, tragedy, he discusses reversal as a very important strategy, and media res also as a very important strategy, in addition to various other factors. Let me not go into those details. I would confine myself to talking about how media res is employed in Ramayana, how reversal is employed in Ramayana. Media res means in the middle of things, in the midst of things. According to Aristotle, we do not know whether Valmiki has come under the influence of the Greeks, because Valmiki Ramayana is supposed to have been composed around 5th century BC. 5th century BC is exactly the time when the Greek civilization is celebrating its golden period. And Greek epics have been written around that time. The Trojan War has taken place around the 12th century BC. And these stories have been on the tongues of the people in Greece, and that came to be permanently written by Homer around the 5th or 6th century BC. And now Ramayana has also been written around the 5th and 6th century. Some historians say it is around the 4th century BC. We do not know. We know that Greece and India, as two great developed civilizations, were part of the ancient civilization. Civilization began in Asia Minor, that includes India as well. And Greek civilization, the Egyptian and African civilization, and the Asian civilizations have started growing in connection while interacting with the civilizational revolution that took place in the Asia Minor. Asia Minor and the region called Asia Minor includes India, Africa, and Greece. So, according to historians, there were relations between Greece and India. And during the Alexander's invasion of India, and even after Alexander, and Gandhara architecture, which is a confluence of the Indian art and the Greek art, is one of the examples that goes on to prove that there was a relationship between Greece and India in the field of art and now, keeping that, it need not necessarily be a part of influence of the Greek art and literature on the Indian mind. It may have been a result of a very systematic pursuing of art and literature, a pursuing of excellence in literature, and Valmiki may have invented it himself. I need not have to go on to the extent of proving that it is definitely an influence. I am insisting it as more as a strategy that was very well discussed in the Greek literature than in Indian literature. If you look at Bharata's Natya Shastra, I do not think that either reversal or media res has been discussed as two important factors while writing a play or an epic. Whereas Aristotle, in very clear terms, discusses these two factors as very important for a tragedy. He has not discussed the essence, the importance of these two strategies with reference to an epic. Whereas, here Valmiki may be using these two strategies in an epic. That does not make much of a difference for us. It serves the purpose of art. Art is a means of deeply etching certain moods in man. And it is to deeply etch in man certain moods that writers employ strategies. And according to me, according to Valmiki, media res, the middle of things, is one of the important factors, an artistic strategy, and also reversal. Ayodhya Kanda, the very first, or the second important, after Balakanda comes Ayodhya Kanda. And the Ramayana story begins with the Ayodhya Kanda. In Ayodhya Kanda, what we have is Rama has come of age. Rama has met Sita in Mithila, and he has won her. Lakshmana is married. Bharata, Shatrughna are also married on the same occasion, on the same event. All the four of them have returned to Ayodhya along with their wives. And on one fine morning, during the happiest season of the year, the spring season, Dasharatha thinks of coronating his son, Sri Ramachandra. And he calls the meeting of all his ministers, invites kings, invites Brahmins, people who are very well read in Vedas and Upanishads, all these scholars, all the intellectuals, the kings, and he discusses with them why he should not coronate Sri Ramachandra, put him on the throne, so that now, since he is old, he may retire And he may see his blue-eyed son, his blue-eyed prince. According to Dashratha, is not coronating Sri Ramachandra according to the Rajadharma, because he is the first son. He is not doing it for that purpose. He is not doing it just because Rama is the first. He is doing it because Rama has all the qualifications, all the qualities of a scholar. He has numerous literary excellences. He is good in administration. He is good in all other aspects, austerities. He is good in respect. He is good in respecting his elders. Good in respecting the good in respecting his subjects. Good in respecting his mothers. Good in respecting and loving, appreciating his brothers. And he is good. He is a complete character. And it is because of these qualities in Rama, Dashratha wants to see Ramachandra on the throne. So immediately after that, he invites a meeting of the ministers, and the ministers all agreed to it in one, moment, and they are all very happy about it. And he immediately invites Sri Ramachandra, and Sri Ramachandra is asked to get ready for the coronation. And the orders also at the same time to get Bharata and Shatrughna, who have gone to their grandfather's place from their mother's side, gone back to they are very happy to be there, and their maternal uncle has taken them away to their grandfather's place, and there is an elaborate arrangement made to realize the coronation of Sri Ramachandra. And Dashratha is more than happy. Dashratha, along with the season, the happiest season of the year, there is celebration in nature. And the whole of Ayodhya kingdom, the whole of Ayodhya city, we have people celebrating this happy news, happy information that Ramachandra is going to be coronated. There is an elaborate arrangement of things and preparations for the coronation. Ramachandra has been told, and Sri Ramachandra, all through the Ramayana epic, he has always been mentioned as Sri Rama, Sri Rama, and Sri Rama. And in this gathering, I have 47 participants. I presume that all these 47 participants are either senior 65 plus above, or my dearest junior colleagues. And I also presume that all these 47 participants are teachers first, and teachers of English and teachers of other literatures. And as a teacher of literature, basically, I request all of you to read Ramayana once, and read Vedas and Upanishads once, because not many of us have read Vedas or Upanishads. Not many of us have read in full Ramayana or Mahabharata. And we happen to be teachers of English, earning our livelihood. We will not be able to do justice to the teaching of literature or language or culture or civilization if we have not exposed ourselves to these two great epics and to the Vedas and Upanishads. Whatever be our quarrels from the modern perspective, whatever be our quarrels, but we should have read to develop an argument. We should have read to reject something or to accept something. If you have not read it, and if you have not shed a tear while reading Ramayana or Mahabharata, then you are not a student of literature at all. That's what I want to say. I hope all of you agree with me so far as the importance of Ramayana and Mahabharata are concerned, which are there to expand our horizon of understanding the human emotions and human nature. It's a must for all of us, and I request all the 47 participants who are senior, who may be seniors to me, who may be senior professors. If there are senior professors, I presume they would have read. If there are junior colleagues, I request them to read it once. And if you once read Ramayana and Mahabharata, Ramayana and Mahabharata will definitely remain as your permanent companions all through your life. And the more you age, the more dear these two epics will be in the course of your life. I wish you all, a very happy reading of Ramayana and Mahabharata. Now, I was taking you through the Ayodhya Kanda. Ayodhya Kanda is about, it begins with the thought of coronating Sri Rama and Dasratha, the king, who has got 4 male sons, who are all married. One fine morning, it flashes across his mind that it is time for him to retire and it is time for him to coronate Sri Ramachandra. Not because he is the first son, he is the eldest among his sons, according to Raja Dharma, that he needs to be coronated, but because he has all the great qualities in him. That is why Sri Ramachandra has become the dearest of all his 4 sons. Although he equally loves all of them, he loves Sri Ramachandra more because of the qualities that he has in him. And immediately after this announcement, there begins the elaborate arrangement for the coronation. The pandal has to be built, roads have to be cleaned up, buildings have to be readied, people have to buy, good things and good clothes for themselves, and there is music, and people of Ayodhya are enjoying, they are all, in their joyous mood, and there is happiness spread all over the state, and everybody is singing the name of Sri Ramachandra. The mothers are also very happy. Kausalya is very happy. Saumitra is very happy. Sumitra is very happy. Kaikeyi is also very happy. All the 3 mothers, Rama approaches each one of them, touches their feet, takes their blessings, and each one of its mothers are invariably happy about Sri Ramachandra becoming the king of Ayodhya. The king of Ayodhya. Now, that is media res. Media res means in the middle of things. Media res has been a very important literary strategy in narrating stories. Hundreds of Hindi films, hundreds of regional films, hundreds of Hollywood movies employ this strategy. In beginning a story, in the middle of things. A movie would have, there are lots of movies which begin with a train accident. Lots of movies which begin with a flood, lots of movies which begin with an earthquake. It, throws around things and it draws our attention to various kinds of, pains and pleasures. It demands the readers to employ all their psychological strengths and energies to comprehend the situation. In the process, the audience or the readers will be completely immersed in the story, which is an essential condition in realizing the importance of art. The realization of art, the importance of art is emotional culture. Unless man completely immerses himself in this dispassionate world, he will not be able to attain the highest kind of pleasure, that is ananda, that is bliss. That is what this strategy does. The elaborate arrangements. There are 523 cantos, and there are 526 cantos, and there are 24,000 verses in Ramayana. And Ayodhya Kanda is the most important Kanda so far as the Ramayana epic is concerned, because it is the section that sets the tone for the rest of the epic, and it is the section which engages the which makes the readers commit themselves to the story, which demands the reader to remain stuck to it, because the emotions represented in this, cover all the aspects. It covers love, it covers, Bipatsa, it covers Asya, it covers everything else. In all the 9 rasas are covered in this section, which sets the tone for the entire, the rest of the epic. In fact, is a development is constructed on this, on this section, and it's a continuation of the emotions that have been discussed in the Ayodhya Kanda. And here, media res, the epic begins at once. It plunges us into a disturbed, highly disturbed and a highly disturbing world, riveting us to the central story of Sri Ram. And well, when that is the strategy of making the reader completely immersed in it, immersed in the story, forget himself in the story, well, there are various other human aspects and moods that affect us, that pain us, and these have been employed. The anubhavas, our experiences are totally will be, in response to the moods presented there, the moods presented here. So Sri Ramachandra does not oppose now the reversal. After introducing a story in the middle of things, there is also another strategy employed, that is reversal. We have seen the effect of reversal when we read Oedipus Rex. In Oedipus Rex, reversal has been very competently employed in the tragedy of Oedipus. Oedipus as the king, the play begins in the middle of things. There is plague already in the state. People are dying, only leaving the old ones to suffer. The young ones have been taken away by the plague, and the king invites. He has already sent his brother-in-law to get the information as to why this is happening, and he is returning on his way. And when the king wants to know what exactly it is, he comes to know that there is a person who has killed his father, and living in that state. Unless that man is identified and thrown out of the state, there is no respite to the disease, the pestilence in the state. And next he invites Tiresias, and he says, "You are the culprit." Look at it, reversal. He wants the investigation into finding out the real person, the real culprit, so that he can throw him out. The more and more he indulges in the investigation, instead of somebody else being found out as the culprit responsible for it, Oedipus himself becomes the victim of it. See how the reversal. When Tiresias appears on the scene, he points his finger to Oedipus. It is you who has killed your father and married your mother and begot children from her. Look at it, reversal. And he wanted to protect the state. And he is the one who has destroyed the health of the state. And therefore, he wants to be immediately banished from the state. It begins in the middle of things. And it also very effectively employs the reverse, peripeteia, that is the Greek word. I may have difficulty in pronouncing this word, peripeteia, or whatever. And reversal. Look at the reversal. Dasharatha goes to Kaikeyi's, Jainatium. That's the word used in the Ramayana translation. And it is reversed. And Ayodhya Kanda takes the same number of cantos to reverse the things. In the sense that, all the arrangements that were made had to be ignored, and new arrangements have to be made to see off. Look at the reversal of fortune of the central character. He was about to become the emperor, and now he is going away from his own empire. See, look at the amount of pathos, the amount of tragic sense, the amount of all other kinds of, the amount of fear, the amount of pity, the amount of fear that is aroused in the readers, in the audience, is something unique, something very deep, something highly. It is this story that rivets us, that makes us the readers, followers of Sri Ram, without arguing with its mother. Look at the scene in which the fortunes of Sri Rama are, the fortune of Sri Rama is reversed. The whole night Dasharatha takes one evening to call the meeting of his ministers and to take a decision to coronate the king. He takes one full night to convince Kaikeyi about reversing her request, her demand for sending Rama to the forest and making Bharata the prince, Bharata the king of fire. He takes one full night. He begs her, he promises her with hundreds of things. And here, Valmiki employs irony as also one of the important literary strategies to make a deeper impact on the minds of the readers. He employs irony. While he is making his promises to Kaikeyi to fulfill her wishes, he keeps on taking the name of Sri Ramachandra. It is on the name, I swear by my blue-eyed prince, my dearest prince, Sri Ramachandra, and I will fulfill your promises. I will fulfill. Look at the irony. Sri Ramachandra is going to be, exiled. Sri Ramachandra's fortune is going to be affected. And Dasharatha is taking the Sri Ramachandra, the victim of the entire situation, using his name often and often to console Kaikeyi about his willingness to fulfill his promises to her. He keeps on using Sri Ramachandra. He swears by Sri Ramachandra. It's on Sri Ramachandra that I swear and fulfill. And the irony of the situation is, it's not just the reversal. Now, media res is mixed with reversal strategy, reversal technique. The entire event, media res and the reversal of the fortune of Sri Ramachandra, which leaves a permanent impression on the minds of the readers. That is because it goes deep into our mind. The obedience of this prince he has the qualities in him of the Rajas, a king, according to the rules of the state. On those days, the first son has to be coronated under all circumstances, and by law he is correct. Lakshmana tells him, look, our father now is playing into the hands of his youngest queen. He's playing, into the hands of his youngest queen. According to Raja Dharma, you need not have to listen to his words. You can ignore his words and you can put him in prison and announce yourself. And his mother also, King Dasharatha himself tells Sri Ramachandra when he is about to leave, why don't you put me in prison and declare yourself the king? Look at it. Against the provocation by his own brother Lakshmana, against the advice by his own father, against the advice of his mothers, Sri Ramachandra most dutifully, most obediently decides to obey the words of his father. Dasharatha has not uttered a single word about Sri Ramachandra. to go away for 14 years. It is Kaikeyi who informs him. Your father is not in a position to tell you what he wants to tell you. I'll tell you what he has in his mind, because he has fallen unconscious. Dasharatha, in the, he's falling on the floor. He's not in his consciousness. And it is Kaikeyi who conveys, presumably, whatever was there in the mind of Dasharatha. Dasharatha also pleads and pleads with Kaikeyi. Look at on the one side, the epic at once begins in the midst of things. Okay, there is a lot of activity that is going on all around. There is pleasure, and at once we come to the other end of pleasure. That is deep pain. We were experiencing the highest kind of pleasure. The whole of Ayodhya is experiencing the highest kind of pleasure. All of a sudden, we have all been dropped into the pit of agony, pit of pain, pit of sorrow. All at once, the entire, it's a reversal, and it is this, aspects, strategies employed by, which are Greek. That is because I say it Greek because I do not know whether Valmiki had come in contact with Aristotle's art experience, poetics, because it was written around the 5th century. And Bharata Natya Shastra is also written around the 5th century. Ramayana, according to some historians, has also been composed around that time. Greeks and India have been in touch with each other. The Greek pantheon of gods, the Indian pantheon of gods, and these two stories, Iliad and Ramayana, have a lot in common. Keeping all these things in view, I have a suspicion, I have a question in this mind, whether by any chance, by any accident, Valmiki was aware of the Greek literary tradition. This is my first question. This is my first question. First question is with reference to the strategy, the technique, literary technique of reversal. And secondly, what could have been the real purport of Valmiki choosing this story, making it such a great epic, employing the great literary strategies, employing the Ashtadasha Varnana. See, if you are writing an epic, you have to employ all these 18 kinds of descriptions and also maintain a tone of dignity. Okay, also, and what may be the message? The people of Ayodhya are worshippers, have become worshippers of Sri Ramachandra. The people of Ayodhya have become the greatest admirers of Sri Ramachandra. Now, Sri Ramachandra is silent on his exile. Sri Ramachandra goes away. Now, this event of people going, our rishis going away from the land to the forest, Pandavas going to the forest, Buddha going to the forest, Sri Ramachandra going to the forest, has its own implication on the living societies. The living societies will come in a better contact and a close contact with the dharma to be lived, the righteousness to be lived. Now, Ramachandra, who is the dearest to the people of Ayodhya, is going away, obeying the dharma. He says he knows the Raj Dharma, but he has a personal dharma, and that personal dharma is to obey the elders. And it is his personal dharma, individual dharma. And for 14 years, he will be away from the state. And for 14 years, he will be the most, let me also use another superlative, the most dearest king of the people. Now, righteousness is going to be the central issue that the people are going to talk about, think about. What cannot be dharma or righteousness cannot be taught, cannot be legislated, cannot be made to be obeyed by people by the instruments of state, by making it a law that everybody should behave, truthfully to the state. It may not work. So Valmiki to Sri Rama may be giving this message that if dharma is not lived, live, according to dharma, and thereby you set a model for yourself. Dharma cannot be taught through, the legislations of the state. Dharma cannot be taught through the laws. Dharma can only be taught in the best way possible, the better way possible, the highest way possible, only by living the life of righteousness. And that is what Sri Ramachandra is doing. And Sri Ramachandra and people of Ayodhya who have been already worshipping, who have been the greatest fans, greatest worshippers, greatest followers of Sri Ramachandra, are going to practice this on the tongues of the citizen of the Ayodhya. It is Rama. And now Rama with a philosophy for life. And the philosophy is righteousness. What could be the possible message? There may be 100 messages, my dear friends and scholars, hundreds of messages, because an epic lends itself for, lends itself for hundreds of interpretations. This may also be one of the messages, along with so many other messages that readers may come across, that dharma can only be taught. Dharma cannot be legislated. Dharma cannot be taught through rules. Righteousness, way of living, can only be taught by living, by setting oneself as the example, by setting oneself as a real model for the others to follow. Now, that is my second question. I don't know whether this could be one of the messages of Valmiki. In another 2-3 minutes, I'll come to the last point, of my question with reference to Valmiki's Ramayana. Now, when you have Hanumanta, who is the other important aspect in Ramayana epic. The second half of the epic deals with Hanumanta at the center of the epic, and he is more important. He has all the qualities that Rama has. He is a great warrior. There is valor, there is strength, there is energy, there is devotion, there is a sense of righteousness in him, and he can be a great, he can serve righteousness at best. That's it. And he has all the qualities in him. And he is very humble. Yes, he is very humble. And now he completes he is the other end, and he is responsible for completing happy conclusion of Ramayana. The question now is, when he meets Sita in Ashokavana, Sita narrates her story to Hanumanta. Hanumanta is supposed to be from Karnataka, my dear friends. I am very proud of this character. Kannada Kulapungava Hanuma, it is said. Kulapungava means is born in Karnataka, which may include parts of Andhra Pradesh, because in one of our epics, Andhra Pradesh, Kaveri Indama Godavari, from the river Kaveri to Godavari, the Karnataka exists. The people of Kannada speaking do live in this area. It includes parts of Andhra Pradesh as well. And Hanuman has been described in the epic as Kannada Kulapungava Hanuman, one who is born in the land of the Kannadigas. It means, and I am very proud of this character. And now, while narrating this story, see, the story is like this, that Sita marries Sri Ramachandra by Swayam Vara method. And what could be the age of Sita? Around Swayamvara, Sri Ramachandra is 16 and 17. That is because in Ayodhya Kanda, when Vishwamitra expresses his desire to take Rama and Lakshmana with him to fight the demons, Dashratha says, my son is only 16 years old and he is yet to attain his adulthood, therefore I cannot send him. After that, Vishwamitra takes the brothers and they fight, they kill so many demons. Ataka is one among them, and so many others, before he marries Sita by Swayamvara. And what could be the age you think of Sita? Around that time, 13, 14? Okay. And after marrying Sri Ramachandra, she has lived in the palace, Ayodhya palace, for 12 long years, very happily. She hasn't had children. Neither, as Lakshmana has children, nor Bharata or Shatrughna have any children. None of them have any issues at all from them. Well, according to the Raja Dharma, then they should have had. Otherwise, they would marry, several times more, so that their dynasty and their pedigree continues. And now they go to forest for 14 long years. So 13 plus 12, 25, 14 long years, it makes 39. When Sita has returned to Ayodhya after the exile, Sita is not less than 39 years and 40 years. Now, presuming that Sita and Rama, while living in the forest, have lived an austere life, have lived on the roots, have lived on the green food and so many other things, which goes on to suggest that they have regained their life, they regained their health, and only after returning from the forest 14 years, when Sita is around 39 years old, she conceives. This may make us ask one more question, whether Kaikeyi's intention in banishing Sri Ramachandra, okay, whether her intention is also that they regain the health, they will have children later after regaining their health by living in the forest. Is also one of the suggestions that I feel that can be raised very genuinely with reference to the evidence that we have in the text. And with these three questions, my dear friends, I stop here. I've spoken for 1 hour. I started around, I think, 7:15. Now it is 8:15. I suppose it is getting late for your dinner and all other Sunday evening matters. So I stop here. Ms. Paul, now please, I would like to sit and listen to your questions and if possible, try to answer the questions. I suppose it's okay with you? Did I?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Paul. Now I'm open to questions.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for exploring those wonderful insights. Especially, I would like to mention here your emphasis on the concept of Ananda and refinement of human life and the pivotal role played by literature, especially the epics. Also, you meticulously brought to the fore the structural strategies employed by Valmiki, including the rasas. So in the comment section, we have few questions. So the first question is, sir, should we learn as a moral how Rama treated Sita by asking her to prove her purity? Should we learn how Rama caused the killing of a brother by another? This is the first question that we have.
Okay, these questions are highly radical and politicized. I don't want to take up these questions at all.
Okay, sir.
You are free. You are all adults. You have your vision, your ways of understanding and looking at the life. These are common stock questions, which have taken us to some unknown areas where we may end up as people at opposite ends of our arguments. You are free to look at it from your own points of view, understanding the politics and understanding the culture. And are you referring to Wali's killing by Sri Ramachandra?
It is not mentioned in the comment section, sir, but I presume it is so.
It is so. Rama tells him, Wali has a magical power with him. Whosoever stands in front of him to challenge him, the person who goes to challenge him would lose half of his power, and that would empower Wali in turn. And in the process, Wali enjoys such a position in his life that nobody else can defeat him. And Rama has justified himself by saying that that is a hunter. That is a hunter. And he uses his own strategies to kill an animal. Okay, similarly, he has, and Valmiki is a known villain in the epic. So Rama has justified himself, and we also have some logics to justify Rama, and people may disagree with it. Does he encourage? Does he encourage this? But he's fighting a war, he's fighting a battle, he's fighting for justice. He's getting justice to Sugriva, as we all know. Okay, easy. But in the Hindu view of things, okay, in the Hindu view of things, it is seen as a deliverance. It is seen as a deliverance. And Vishnu's incarnation as Rama, as a human being, is for the cause of delivering this world. Just as Buddha was born to deliver this world. And therefore, the question of permanent villains does not exist in Hindu philosophy. Evil is not permanent. Okay, in Hindu philosophy. And keeping this philosophy in our mind, if you analyze it, there are so many people who have been delivered from their curses. Ahalya is delivered from her curses. Shabari was waiting for Rama's, interaction with her. She is delivered. And similarly, Ravana is also, delivered from this world. They would all get back to the world of gods. They are all from the same stock. Brahma is the creator of all of them. In that sense, there is another inclusive philosophy which has a way of dealing with them. I suppose, our scholars whosoever have raised this question to look at it from this angle also. Okay.
Thank
And
you, sir.
the way he treats,
Hello,
the way he treats Sita, in the 21st century, and women liberation movement has raised this question, millions of times. Is that the way Sita to be treated? Is that the way Sita to be? Is that the way Surpanaka has to be treated? Why do the brothers cut off her nose? Why do they have to cut off? You see, in my own humble way, Surpanaka is not they enjoy this magical and supernatural power to change their shapes. Whether Surpanaka has been permanently hurt, permanently disfigured is a question. That is because she appears before her brother Ravana with her nose bleeding, with her ear bleeding, to provoke him, so that Ravana takes revenge on these two brothers. If she wanted, she could have, used her magical powers to appear herself, make herself appear as the most beautiful woman again. They enjoy, like Wali, certain supernatural powers by which they can change their shapes and other things. And keeping this in mind, how Lakshmana could go to such an extent of disfiguring a woman, helpless woman, has to be understood and answered. They enjoy certain supernatural powers, change themselves completely. I do not know against this, situation whether Surpanaka has permanently been disfigured. It's a question. It's a question. Now we're coming to Sita. Whenever marriage is an institution, in an institution, the roles and responsibilities of members are very clearly defined. Very clearly defined. I want all of us to understand this as a part of an institutional problem. Institutions of marriage around that time probably demanded this. Institutions of marriage during our time may have completely changed. Okay, and now we are asking this question from a different socio-political context altogether. Therefore, this socio-political context is also very important. Those were the days when, he also says that now I have liberated you. I didn't fight war to regain you. I fought this war for the dignity of my house. Now you are free to choose a person of your choice and go and live with him. That's what Ramachandra says after he has killed Ravana. Again, this is also insulting. And that's one of the reasons why Sita goes away from his life permanently, if you remember it. And she has staged her protest. And Valmiki has enabled Sita to protest in her own way against what you think or what I think, is inhuman overtures to Sita. What do you say, Miss Paul? This is what I have in my own humble way. You are all free individuals, and you are free to pursue your own ways of inquiring into these texts and find answers for yourself. If you say that it is wrong, fine, fine. Then also you are making some progress with reference to understanding the complex web of human nature, the complex web of human relationship. They cannot be drawn in simple straight lines, as we all know. We are all living in our family life. We know how complex it is at times, to solve our own problems. And I want to look at it from a very practical point of view. Institutionalization of family has set certain rules for men, certain rules for women, and consciously or unconsciously, even in our own times, 21st century, we have family as an institution sometimes being very oppressive. I hope you understand that, against the contemporary scenario also. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Very rightly pointed out. So, sir, the next question is by Kusuma M. And the question is, Rajadharma is almost an aspect of dementia nowadays. How does rereading of Ramayana will imbibe the lost golden qualities among the present generation?
Okay, Rama is a prince. Rama may not be aware that he is an avatar or incarnation of Vishnu, but Rama operates on the level of a human being. Look at the way he is crying, over the loss of his wife. He is in tears. Whenever he thinks of her, he is in tears. He is crying. And when it comes to exercising his Raja Dharma and claiming to be the prince of the kingdom, he disagrees with Lakshmana. But when he goes to forest, he weeps for us. How could possibly my father exile me? Why did he not argue with his wife? He weeps over that also. So there, Rama is present as a human being. Rama is also an avatar. Okay, when he moves onto the plane of an avatar, he is a different person altogether. When he is operating as a deliverer of humanity, then he has a different goals altogether. But Rama is available to us also as a human being. You have to look at it as a human being. Okay, he is first son to his father. He is not obeying. He is obeying the orders of his father as a son to him, not as a prince. Had he operated as a prince, then he would have put him in jail. Dasharatha himself requests Sri Ramachandra to put him in jail and exercise his Rajadharma powers. Lakshmana also provokes him to do it, but he disagrees with all that. That, as answers for so many other things. In what way, what to say, Bharata is inferior to Sri Ramachandra in terms of, the rule. They are all, children of Dasharatha. They have the same blood running in all their veins. And it is to Sumitra that Dasharatha has given 2 spoons of payasa, which is which are served as a seeds for all of them to be born. And therefore, Bharata and Lakshmana and Bharata are born from, Sumitra, isn't it? Therefore, in what way Dasharatha, what to say? Bharata is inferior. The question is also that. And why should he not get a chance? Why should he not get? Rama may have thought about all those things. And Valmiki may not have discussed these things. Okay? And he must have left it to the discretion and thinking of the readers to understand it. Okay? Just because he has not mentioned it anywhere does not mean he need not have to explore it. There are so many other things which are silently operating. Okay? That's the way I want to look at it. Okay?
Right, sir.
He's a son, and he's a great, he's a great lover. One who, fulfills. He tells Sita, look, don't be silly in the forest. I cannot chase this. This is a magic deer. He tells her, but she insists on it, and he wants to fulfill her desire. What better kind of an adventurous husband you want to have? Okay. Is he not romantic enough? Is he not adventurous enough? Is that not what a wife loves? Okay, in her husband, and he is a perfect, romantic hero for me. A very ideal husband also for me. Okay. And both of them have become the great tales. It is for their virtues during their own lifetime. Lama and Kusha are singing about the virtues of Sri Rama and Sita during their own lifetime. Look at it. That's an achievement. And we are, what to say, we have come to this universe 2500 years after this epic has been composed, but it remains at the heart of so many civilizations. So many civilizations, not just the Indian civilization. You know how Ramayana has affected, Ramayana's thinking has affected people all over the world. I read a page a day and shed a few drops of tears. I want to read it again and again. Okay. And why don't you ask, how is it possible for an animal monkey, okay, to what to say, cross 1000 yojanas in one jump? Why don't you ask that question? People don't ask these questions because human elements are not involved. Okay. He is fighting against the cosmic forces. So we do not have questions. When it comes to human forces, we have a lot of questions. The treatment of Sita by Rama. Okay. He is performing his duties and functions also as a prince, but as a human being, he is the dearest, romantic hero for me. He loves his wife so much. Supposing my wife goes away, I do not shed tears every day. Okay, but Rama is doing it. Rama is doing it.
Well, sir, while I agree with you on this, yet I would beg to differ on the women in the present context idealizing Rama as the ideal husband. So moving ahead, sir, we have the next question by Dr. Aparna Mukherjee Chatterjee. She asks, Sri Ram was a righteous king, but can leaving the kingdom to be an ideal son be justified lawful, as he himself knew that he could be the best leader to his subjects? There are some additional questions also. Is it practical when today's young leaders say, quote, fight for right, unquote, what is right that is correct and right that is ownership? Is it wrong? Should one not fight for one's right? So that's the question.
He has fought it. In fact, it is he who wins. Even in his absence, Bharata is running the administration of the state in the name of Rama. It is not Bharata. Bharata has kept his footwear on the throne and he is running the administration of Sri Ramachandra. In absentia rule is much better effective than what would have he done with his presence as the king. It is working in a much better way, fighting for his right, political right, and fighting for the right of dharma is much more important. And he has won in this battle. He has won in this battle. He has become the most worshipable king than ever after ignoring the material comforts. That's what he says, material comforts. Material comforts. And he has got a permanent place in a much better world, much powerful world, in the world of, what to say, righteousness. Thereby, he has established himself the emperor than an ordinary king. He is the emperor in the world of philosophy, in the emperor in the world of righteousness. I am offering an argument. I may not be answering your question. I may not. Professor Chatterjee, that's a very good question. Should he not have fought for his rights? Rights, he has fought for his rights. There is his personal dharma also. Who should recognize his personal dharma? Thereby there is peace. Thereby there is prosperity. Thereby there is harmony. Whereas when Duryodhanas and brothers disagree with Duryodhana, with Krishna, not to have a battle, we have had bloodshed. We have had bloodshed. Okay, you wanted bloodshed? You wanted bloodshed? That is because Bharata, supposing, we do not know, it's a hypothetical question. Supposing Ram, after being dismissed, what's your guess? Do you think Kaikeyi would not have provoked? Aroused, do you think she would not have used her provocation to pit Bharata against Rama? Do you think that would not have led to something else? Okay, he has avoided all these consequences. This is a better diplomatic way of exercising one's right. I suppose there are better ways in diplomacy. There are always better ways. There is not the only way. Okay, only way. That's what I think. We have to expand the horizons of our thinking and human knowledge to find answers to some of these things. Okay. Okay. I may not have answered your question. I am not the right person. See, and we have evolved morals and ethics. Every age has its own morals and ethics. And you are asking a question. See, Oedipus, when he married his wife, it was perfectly accepted. In Egypt, the pharaohs married within the family. It was not considered incest. But the later civilization, which came to understand that incest would lead to decimating the families, they invented, exchanging the female members of family among themselves. That's how a new civilization began. But do you consider when you judge a civilizational ideal by the ideal of another totally different civilization, you will have problems. Oedipus was right, but only when it comes another different thing has come into being, it is being looked at it from a new perspective. Otherwise, the pharaohs married. Why did the pharaohs disappear? They married among themselves. Why did they marry? It is there in Greek Ulysses, your Troy, film also, where sister falling in love with the brothers. That is because they did not want the royal powers to go out of the family. Okay, it was perfectly incest. Whatever you call incest today was not an incest those days. And that has to be looked at from that point of view as well. What I'm trying to say is the morals and ethics and imperatives of a particular socio-political period may be completely opposite to what was practiced earlier on. That is what is known as evolution. That is what is known as evolution. Okay. Evolution is totally disagreeing with the cultural practices of the previous generation. That is what it is. Okay. Now, the Indira Gandhi also covered her head. Now, we do not want our heads to be covered by our, daughters. Okay, I have not encouraged my daughters to cover their heads. But what was the culture of our previous generation? Every woman covered. Now it has become a very big political issue. What is wrong if you cover yourself? You should not, if you want to cover, it is for your safety and convenience. Why are you politicizing it? It's our personal right. Once the personal rights are guaranteed, you are not wearing your bindi. Why should I ask that question? Should I ask that question? And if you bear yourself more, you are more welcome these days. We have the Miss World and Miss Universe with the barest dress possible, and that is what has been encouraged and highly, paying. Whereas if you cover yourself, it's a fundamentalism and so many other things. So cultural practices and imperatives, values of a particular time have totally gone against the whatever it was in the previous period, and it is moving from one opposite to the other extremes. From socialism to highest kind of capitalism. India is in today, as we all know. We were in a socialistic pattern. We nationalized everything. Now drastically opposite, diametrically opposite of our previous. We are liberalizing everything, selling off all our national properties. Look at it, diametrically opposite to our views. When socialist India, Indira Gandhi and Nehru did a wonderful job. There were great scholars appreciating the socialist economy. And now so many economists are disagreeing with the socialist economy. They say it's subsidy Raj. They say so many other things. Let me not get into the point, but I'm telling you the logic by which the practices of a previous civilization, previous era comes to be drastically opposed by the continuing generations. That conflict exists. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay.
Thank you so much, sir. As I can see from the posts in the comment section that your deliberation has really forced our esteemed participants to rethink what they have already knew or believed. So there are lots of comments and questions, but due to paucity of time, I think today we will not be able to take them. Again, thank you so much, sir. And to proceed further here, let me move on to the to introduce our chairperson for today's program.
Ma'am, just my name would do. I don't think an introduction is required. It's all right, ma'am. We're
Okay.
really running out of time. Please don't worry.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. So we have today Dr. Nilanjana Pathak as the chairperson for today's program. I would request ma'am to please.
Good evening, Professor Nilanjana Pathak. Good evening.
Namaskar and good evening to you. Greetings of this very rewarding evening to one and all. It's a great moment that we meet here and on this digital rostrum, and it's my proud privilege to be a part of this platinum event celebration of iSPELL. And it's not an easy task to hold 75 continuous sessions, and iSPELL and its able office bearers have proved the dictum true that what the mind can conceive and believe, it can also achieve. Through these diversified deliberations, iSPELL has excelled, promoted quality, and persevered in every possible way. From literature to language, from prose to poetry, from fiction to drama, from isms to digital humanities, hardly any topic has been left untouched by the forum. And today we stepped into the realm of the infinite, Valmiki's Ramayana. It is customary to look for answers to the various dilemmas and the woes, the daily woes that we face, to look for answers in the Ramayana. But today, Professor Mahadeva reversed the approach because he talked of some questions that we are led to contemplate upon in our reflections on the Ramayana. Kujanti Ram Rameti Madhuram Madhuraksharam Aruhikarta Shakham Vande Valmikokilam Apadam Pahartaram Dataram Sarsampadam Lokabhiramam Shriyamam Bhuyo Bhuyo Namamyaham. I salute Valmiki, the cuckoo who, perching on the tree of poetry, melodiously sings the syllables Rama Rama. Rama, the consecrator of all wealth and the dispeller of darkness. I again salute Ram, who's the cynosure of all people's eyes. A presentation like this deepens our understanding of the encyclopedic range of Ramayana and reaffirms our conviction that the Ramayana is a palimpsest of cultural, religious, social, and ethical impulses that have long governed the Indian society and civilization. The Ramayana rightly forms a part of the Hindu Smriti, the canon, part of the Itihas, even though the events narrated may not be historically authenticated, it does foster our historical consciousness. Now, talking about Sir's talk, Sir, I would like to tell you that I wished I was not chairing this session. You know why, sir? Because I wanted to put my heart and soul and head and mind into what you were speaking and increase my very little knowledge of the Ramayana. But as a chairperson, the protocol of the chair demanded that I write in short whatever you were talking. So you will be surprised to know that I've written 5 full register pages on what you've talked, but I will be very brief and maybe I'll talk only in bits and bytes and indicatively. Sir opened the talk by a mention of the book Lost Love and how the genesis of the questions in his mind around 2017-18. He talked about the philosophy, how India has had a long chain of philosophers. Philosophy is a very important branch of human knowledge. He talked of literature used and its instruments to bring about refinement. Then he talked in detail about Ananda and its importance in the second phase of philosophy. Sir reiterated the fact of idealized situations to expose man to lead a harmonious life. He talked about that epic's role to teach righteousness, and literature should indirectly, I really loved this part of Sir's talk, inculcate morals and ethics. And morals are what differentiated from other literatures. He gave several examples. The readers should take messages without question, so there should be a kind of acceptance. Then he questioned what has gone into the making of the epic by Valmiki. We are lost in the Ramayana, which is so true, and we don't think of the writer at all as we are reading the Ramayana and its 24,000 verses as we are going through it. Then he mentioned the aesthetics of the 9 rasas and their importance. And then he gave a detailed analysis of the 2 strategies, midi-rest and peripecia, which Valmiki has used. And he took us through a beautiful journey of the Ayodhya Kand and how it is the centerpiece and how it sets the mood, how it takes us to the middle and it leaves us with the question of what happened next. And then he talked about the reversal. He talked about Oedipus Rex and the peripecia in Oedipus Rex. And then he came to his second question, which was Valmiki aware of the Greek tradition, which was very interestingly expounded? What could have been the purport of Valmiki choosing this great story using Dasha devices? Then he talked about Ram's going to the forest also being a lesson in righteousness, teaching us about good conduct. And then he wrapped up very cogently, he wrapped up his long talk of 1 hour by this third question. Was Kaikeyi's intention in banishing Ram a means to help them to have children in later stage of life? So this was just a dip into the vast ocean through which Sir took us. Each age in India finds its own Ramayana. The name Ramayana is a Tatpursh compound, Ram plus Ayan. The Ayan stands for journey. So it could be taken as a journey of Ram from virtue to annihilating vice. And another meaning of Ayan is treatise, which takes us to Sir's lecture, wherein the Ramayana can be taken to be a treatise of righteous acts and good conduct, all personified in Ram. And in his Ramayana, Valmiki expresses his views on human code of conduct through Ram. Life is evanescent and a hedonistic approach is meaningless. Man is potentially divine. It is always in quest of manifesting that divinity. And perhaps that is what keeps drawing us to the character of Ram. And one of the most important themes that I would like to touch upon, one of my favorite themes, is that choices have consequences, both good and bad. So man must take the onus of one's own actions. And on this, even I would like to quote Kathleen M., a well-known Indologist on the Ramayana, who says that out of all the sacred Hindu stories, the Ramayana is perhaps the most apt blueprint for right action. The Ramayana is a work of world literature. We have countries like Indonesia who declare proudly that though Islam is their religion, Ramayana is their culture, which brings us to the point that the Ramayana has acted as a setu, a bridge for cultural understanding, and has brought the world closer and can be taken to be what is a soft power. There can be another lecture on the Ramayana as a soft power. And today's talk concretized certain abstract ideas that can promote guidance, roadmaps, and direction to Ramayana scholars. I wonder if I could really have done justice to the awe, the aesthetic pleasure, and the admiration that are in my heart for today's lecture. The rich erudition and high scholarship was evident, sir, in every sentence that you spoke, and it left us absolutely charmed. In this age of excessive individualism and materialism, sir's talk meandered us through questions which can lead to a lot of good, fruitful collective thinking. I'm confident that the audience, the enlightened audience, has received this discourse very well. Thank you very much for patiently answering the questions elaborately, sir. Whatever cracks there may have been were cemented by your elaborate answers. I congratulate Professor Mahadeva for this assiduous work, and I applaud his human service to research scholars on the Ramayana, and I hope I can get many more chances to hear you, sir. Thank you very much, audience, for being patient enough to hear my brief scattered comments. Thank you very much, one and all. Thank you. A special thank you to Dr. Sharmila Paul for not introducing me.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for so excellently and comprehensively summing up the vast range of aspects and topics covered by sir's deliberation. Hopefully, we'll get the opportunity to listen to you and sir again in this forum. Looking forward to that. Now, without further delay, I would like to go back to Ghanshyam sir for the further proceeding of this event. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Nilanjana. On the Platinum Jubilee of iSPELL, it was really a great feast today on Sunday that we have not only listened to Dr. Mahadeva speaking on various questions related to the Ramayana, then bringing Ramayana in a new avatar and making us to understand Ramayana with various contexts and choices. They were there, and also he has aroused many questions, not only to read Ramayana but also to rethink. Deliberation has to be done, and there has to be a long discussions that has to be taken care of by various forums of iSPELL as far as these epics are concerned, because reading the epics, then rereading the epics and interpreting these epics, and then revisiting these epics in the present context relating to the past, it's amazing. And the same thing was done in a meticulous way by Dr. Nilanjana Pathak, who has not only given a wonderful description of the chairperson's remark, but at the same time, she is the one who has taken Ramayana inside her. If the blood flows in the body, that flows in the form of Ramayana as far as Dr. Nilanjana is concerned, because she is also regarded as one of the great writer and even the great speaker as far as Ramayana is concerned, what I know from her. And these two people, means the chairperson and the speaker, today what they have done wonderfully is not to introduce them. In the beginning, Dr. Mahadeva told only 5 sentences about me, not even 6th sentence. And Dr. Nilanjana told only my name is sufficient and no other introduction is needed. So that's what makes them to understand us in such a great way, that in Hindi there is a couplet which goes like this: झुकता वही है जिसमें जान होती है, अकड़ तो मुर्दे की पहचान होती है. So these people are bent. These people are the people, those who are grounded. So it's a pleasure to have them on the Platinum Jubilee celebration of iSPELL. I request Mr. Pramod to display the certificates. iSPELL, Indian Society for the Promotion of English Language and Literature, is proudly presenting this certificate on the Platinum Jubilee to Dr. Mahadeva sir for doing the honors, and also bringing us many new facts about Ramayana, and also to reread it once again with our own perspectives and with our own ideas and views. So thank you very much, sir, for doing the honors. Indeed, it's a pleasure. And iSPELL feel honored to present this certificate to you, sir. Kindly accept it, sir. Sir, you're muted, sir. You're muted. You're muted, sir.
Thank you very much, Ghanshyam. Thank you very much, Professor
Thanks, sir.
Pathak. It was
Thank
really
you, sir.
enlightening to listen to, please, I request Dr. Indrani to get me the articles of Professor Pathak about Ramayana. I'll be very happy to read them. And if the questions which have been asked by the participants are transferred to me, I will be very happy to answer all their questions over email. I'll be very happy to interact with the scholars and teachers of literature.
Thank you, sir. I request Dr. Sharmila to copy these questions and send it to us.
Okay.
And this certificate goes to Dr. Nilanjana Pathak. For her, the sky is the limit. So Neil is absolutely the blue sky, which has no limit at all. And even we have seen her presenting her views in such a great way. So for doing the honors, being the chairperson, ma'am, this certificate goes to you. Kindly accept it. You're muted, ma'am.
It's a very proud honor to receive any piece of any document from Indian Society, because you've done so much good and you've earned such a good name. So I feel proud in any way to be associated, and I'm honored by this certificate. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot. The master of the ceremony, who took us right from the beginning till the end of this Platinum Jubilee event, and without any kind of technical glitch, without any kind of hesitation, the entire celebration of Ramayana was indeed a pious one. For doing the honors, Dr. Sharmila Pal, this certificate goes to you. Kindly accept it.
Thank you so much, sir. I feel honored, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you very much. And iSPELL really feel honored. And then to just end this fabulous February with fantastic faculties, which is the theme of the month of February, we are going to witness the international poets on the platform of iSPELL on 27th February, and the time is 7:30 p.m. We have poets from different corners of the world. It's a celebration of the Platinum Jubilee in the form of poem. So do join us with these fantastic poets from different corners of the world to celebrate one thing, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So entire Vasudha is our Kutum. So let us celebrate with Ramayana the Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam concept of the Indian tradition, custom, and culture. So do join us, keep yourself safe and healthy, and be in touch. Stay tuned, stay connected. Our forums are Chhattisgarh, Tripura, South Karnataka, Rajasthan, West Bengal, East Maharashtra, and Assam. Those who have joined us, if they are really willing to open the forums in their respective regions and states, they are most welcome to contact iSPELL. Thank you very much. Stay safe, stay healthy. Good night.
Thank
you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank all of you. Thank you.